In the vast, interconnected multiverse of narrative realities, countless stories unfolded. Each was governed by its own system protocol, meticulously designed to guide its protagonists through arcs of growth, conflict, and eventual triumph. The world of Ethelgard was one such reality, a classic high-fantasy LitRPG setting teeming with dungeons, dragons, and destined heroes. Its system, known as the Grand Narrative Engine, was robust, intelligent, and, on this particular day, suffering from a catastrophic glitch. A random data spike, a cosmic hiccup, had caused it to assign the sacred mantle of Protagonist to the most unlikely and utterly ill-suited individual it could find. That individual was Roric. Roric wasn't a hero. He wasn't even particularly bright. He was a Tier 1 stonecutter in the small, unremarkable village of Oakhaven. His life was simple: wake up, hit rocks, eat stew, sleep. His stats reflected a lifetime of uninspired but honest labor. Roric, stonecutter level. 3, HP, 200, 200 MP, 50-50, barely enough for a spark. STR, 20, could swing a hammer. Dex, 8, clumsy, prone to tripping. Int, 5, struggled with anything beyond basic counting. WIS, 7, believed anything he was told. Con, 15, hardy, rarely sick. Che, 6, awkward, terrible conversationalist. Roric liked rocks. He understood rocks. He did not understand the shimmering, translucent panels that had suddenly appeared before his eyes, proclaiming him a protagonist. The Grand Narrative Engine has designated you as Protagonist. New core class unlocked. The A literary protagonist. Core ability unlocked. Plot blindness, Lovier'n 1. Passive skill. Host is immune to narrative foreshadowing, subtle hints, or dramatic irony. Direct instructions are required for all objectives. Core ability unlocked. Fourth wall awareness. Passive. Host perceives system notifications. Quest logs and character sheets as normal, internal thoughts, not external meta information. Initial protagonist quest generated. The hero's call. Objective. Seek out the wise village elder, Alara, for guidance on your destiny. Reward. Basic starter equipment. Roric blinked. Protagonist? He mumbled to himself, looking around at his small, dusty quarry. Is that a kind of rock? He prodded the glowing text with his finger, frowning. Elder Alara? Is that the lady who gives out the good stew? The system, in its infinite digital wisdom, was already struggling. Roric had perceived the quest objective not as a directive, but as a suggestion, and the meta-information as a part of his own, very confused internal monologue. His plot blindness was already in full effect. He scratched his head, then shrugged. The stew was good. So, he put down his hammer and ambled towards Alara's hut, not because of a protagonist quest, but because he was vaguely hungry and had nothing better to do. Alara, the village elder, was indeed wise. She was also a Tier 8 seer, and she immediately sensed a profound disturbance in the narrative flow. This hulking, simple-minded stonecutter was radiating protagonist energy, but his aura was off. It flickered, chaotic and unpredictable. Roric lumbered into her hut. Elder Alara, the glowing words say something about you and Stu. Is it ready? Alara, sighing internally, opened her own system interface, which confirmed the bizarre designation. Protagonist. Roric, a literary protagonist. Active quest. The hero's call. In progress. Roric, she began patiently. The glowing words are called the system. They guide your destiny. You have been chosen for a great purpose. The first step is to accept your new role. Quest update. The hero's call. Objective, accept your destiny. Reward, basic starter equipment. Roric just stared at her. My destiny? Is it more rock hitting? Because I'm pretty good. At that, Alara tried again more directly. Roric, the system needs you to become a hero. You must embark on a journey. You must gain skills. You must fight monsters. Quest update. The hero's call. Objective. Embark on a journey. Gain skills. Fight monsters. Reward. Basics. Starter equipment. Roric's plot blindness activated. He processed this as a list of things people generally did, not as specific, actionable objectives. Fight monsters, but they live in the woods, and they don't have any good rocks. There, just trees. The system, in its infinite digital frustration, tried a new tactic. A new notification, bolder, more imperative, flashed before Roric's eyes. Directive. Roric, you must go to the Whispering Woods and defeat the Goblin Chieftain. Grimnock, this is a required step for your protagonist progression. Roric, interpreting. This, as a very loud, slightly rude internal thought, frowned. Goblin Chieftain Grimnock? Is he the one who keeps kicking my best rocks off the path? He squinted. And what's progression? Is it a new kind of rock? Ilara, watching. His utterly confused face felt a headache building. The system had chosen a protagonist who didn't understand metaphors, didn't grasp destiny, and interpreted direct commands as suggestions or mild annoyances. This was going to be a long narrative. Roric, motivated less by destiny and more by a vague annoyance about his rocks, eventually wandered into the Whispering Woods. He wasn't looking for the Goblin Chieftain Grimnock. He was looking for his rocks. Quest objective. Defeat Goblin Chieftain Grimnock. He encountered a patrol of goblin skirmishers, Leverter 5. They jeered at him, brandishing their rusty blades. Roric frowned. Are you the ones kicking my rocks? Stop that. The goblins, unaccustomed to such a direct, non-threatening approach from a human, paused. Their system, designed for combat, registered this as an anomaly. A literary protagonist ability. Unintended De-escalation, Leverter 1. Passive skill. Host's complete lack of understanding of combat protocols often confuses enemies, temporarily, reducing their aggression. Success chance, 20%. The goblins, instead of attacking, looked at each other, genuinely bewildered. Roric, seeing their hesitation, decided to demonstrate. He picked up a large, smooth river stone, his favorite kind, and polished it with his thumb. See? A good rock. You shouldn't kick them. One particularly dim-witted goblin, intrigued, reached out to touch the stone. Roric, misinterpreting this as an attempt to steal his rock, instinctively swatted the goblin's hand away with his heavy stonecutter's hammer. Critical hit. Goblin Skirmisher, Lever 5, defeated, plus 50 XP. Level up. Roric is now level 4. Skill. Stonecutter's hammer proficiency has leveled up to level 2. New protagonist ability. Accidental Insight, Lever 1. Passive skill. Host occasionally gains inexplicable and often unhelpful insights into the nature of objects or situations. The other goblins, seeing their comrade collapse from what they perceived as a surprisingly powerful, if nonsensical blow, panicked and fled. Roric, confused, looked at the fallen goblin. He didn't even want to hit rocks. What a waste. He continued his aimless wandering. He eventually stumbled upon the Goblin Chieftain Grimnock's lair. Grimnock, a hulking, scarred goblin chieftain, Lever 10, was in the middle of a strategic planning session with his lieutenants, drawing crude maps in the dirt. Roric, seeing the maps, squinted. Are those my rocks? He pointed at a particularly large, circular stone drawn on the map. That one looks like my prize boulder. You stole it! Grimnock, accustomed to adventurers' screaming threats and spells, was utterly taken aback. Stole rock? What? Unintended. De-escalation. Lever 1. Success. Goblin Chieftain Grimnock, Lever 10, is confused. Roric, fueled by a rare burst of genuine anger, his rocks were sacred, didn't wait for an answer. He picked up his hammer, hefted it, and with the raw, untamed power of a stonecutter defending his livelihood, swung. It was a perfectly timed, if completely accidental, critical hit. Critical hit. Goblin Chieftain Grimnack, Lavender 10, defeated, plus 250 XP. Quest objective, defeat Goblin Chieftain Grimnack, completed. Quest reward, basic starter equipment, 1. Slightly rusty short sword, 1 dented leather shield. Level up, Roric is now level 5. New Protagonist ability. Unlikely boon, Lavarche 1. Passive skill. Host occasionally stumbles upon useful items, information, or allies through sheer, unadulterated luck. Roric stared at the fallen chieftain, then at the rusty short sword and dented shield that had appeared beside him. More metal. Not as good as rocks. He still hadn't found his prized boulder. He was, from the system's perspective, a hero. From his own, a slightly frustrated stonecutter. News of Roric's accidental triumph spread. He was hailed as the Oakhaven Crusher, the simple stonecutter who single-handedly defeated the Goblin Chieftain. The system, despite its internal screaming, updated his quest log. Primary Protagonist. Quest, the Serpent's Eye. Objective, recover the stolen Serpent's Eye amulet, a powerful artifact vital to preventing the awakening of the shadow serpent, Sithra. It is rumored to be in the hands of the notorious thief, Skitter, Lever 15. Alara, now Roric's reluctant and frequently exasperated guide, tried to explain. Roric, the Serpent's Eye is a sacred amulet. It's a powerful MacGuffin. It prevents a terrible evil. You must recover it. Roric, using his accidental insight, looked at the amulet's glowing description in his quest log. MacGuffin? Is it a particularly shiny rock? Accidental insight, Leverter 1. Target, MacGuffin. Insight. MacGuffin is a term used by higher-level narrative systems to denote an object of plot importance, often possessing no inherent value to the individual protagonist. It drives the story. It is not, in fact, a rock. Roric blinked. Not a rock? Then why would someone want it? He was genuinely baffled. Alara despaired. The system provided hints, rumors, the location of Skitter's hideout. But Roric's plot blindness made him utterly immune to anything that wasn't a direct, step-by-step instruction. Roric, Alara finally said, her voice strained, you need to find the thief, Skitter. He lives in the old abandoned mill by the river. You need to get the amulet back from him. Quest update, the Serpent's Eye. Objective, go to the old abandoned mill by the river, find Skitter, get the amulet back. Roric nodded, processing this as a simple chore list. Okay, do you think he knows where my prize boulder is? He ambled towards the abandoned mill. He wasn't thinking about prophecy or world-ending serpents. He was thinking about rocks. Skitter, a nimble, Tier 7 rogue, was notorious for his cunning and his lightning-fast reflexes. He prided himself on his intelligence, his ability to outwit anyone. He was not prepared for Roric. Roric found the abandoned mill. He kicked a loose stone. It dislodged a plank, which fell on a tripwire, triggering a cascade of bells and whistles that Skitter had meticulously set up as an alarm system. Unlikely boon, Lover 1, activated. Host has accidentally bypassed a complex alarm system. Skitter, startled, emerged from the shadows. He saw a hulking, dull-witted man holding a hammer, staring blankly at the now ringing alarm bells. Who are you? What do you want? Skitter demanded, his knives flashing. Roric, looking at the intricate mechanism of the bells, had an accidental insight. Accidental insight, Ulver 2. Target, Skitter's alarm system. Insight, this system is inefficient. It uses too many moving parts for a simple sound. A single large rock would be more effective for alerting. Your alarm is bad, Roric stated matter-of-factly. You should use rocks. Skitter stared. He had faced paladins, mages, barbarian hordes. He had never faced someone who critiqued his security system. Unintended De-escalation. Love 2. Success. Skitter, Love 15, is now severely confused. While Skitter was still processing this utterly bizarre interaction, Roric, his attention drawn to a particularly shiny cog in the alarm mechanism, reached out to touch it. Skitter, thinking Roric was going for his throat, instinctively lunged, trying to disengage with a practiced feint. Roric, simply trying to touch the shiny cog, took a step back to get a better angle. Skitter, mid-lunge, lost his footing and tumbled, head over heels into a conveniently placed pile of old burlap sacks. Critical miss Skitter, Laverne 15 is now disoriented. Unlikely boon, Laverne 2. Activated. Host has accidentally disarmed a high-level rogue. Roric, seeing the amulet fall from Skitter's pocket during the tumble, picked it up. Is this the MacGuffin? It's not a rock, but it is shiny. Quest. Objective. Recover the stolen Serpent's Eye Amulet. Completed. Quest reward. Serpent's Eye Amulet acquired. Plus 750 XP. Level up. Roric is now level 8. New protagonist ability. Narrative inertia. Levirir 1. Passive skill. Host's actions, however nonsensical, are always treated as narratively relevant by the system, even if they deviate wildly from intended plot points. Skitter, still tangled in the sacks, watched in utter disbelief as Roric, the supposed hero, ambled out of the mill, clutching the artifact not with triumph but with mild curiosity. Skitter wasn't defeated. He was profoundly, existentially confused. The system had found its most unpredictable variable. Roric, the Serpent's Eye amulet tucked into his pocket, he was still vaguely hoping it would turn into a rock, was now on a new quest. Primary protagonist quest. The Serpent's Slumber. Objective. Return the Serpent's Eye amulet to the altar of binding in the Serpent's Temple to prevent the awakening of the Shadow Serpent, Sthra. The temple is guarded by dangerous serpent cultists Lie 2030. Alara, now accompanied by a perpetually worried Tier 6 monk named Brother Theron, assigned by the local temple to assist Roric, tried to explain the urgency. Roric, the Shadow Serpent is a creature of immense power. If it awakens, it will bring ruin. Roric looked at her blankly. It's a big snake? Does it like rocks? Plot blindness. Lever 3. Activated. Host is utterly impervious to hyperbole or implied threats. They reached the Serpent's Temple, a massive, ancient structure wreathed in shadows. Serpent cultists, their eyes glowing with dark magic, swarmed the entrance. Roric, you must fight them. Brother Theron urged, nervously clutching his staff. Roric, ignoring the cultists, noticed something else. A particularly large, flat, perfectly smooth slab of obsidian near the temple entrance. It was almost exactly like his prize boulder, only bigger. My rock! Roric exclaimed, genuinely excited for the first time. He rushed towards it, completely bypassing the enraged cultists who, once again, were confounded by his utterly illogical behavior. Unintended De-escalation. Lever 3. Success. Serpent cultists, Lever 25, are momentarily stunned by Protagonist's inexplicable priorities. He reached the slab. It was even better than he remembered. He wanted to hit it to feel the satisfying thud of his hammer. But he also recognized it as something special, thanks to a sudden burst of accidental insight. Accidental insight. Levi 3. Target. Obsidian. Slab. Insight. This is not just a rock. This is the rock. It is the altar of binding, a sacred object. It requires the Serpent's Eye amulet to function. Also, your prize boulder is in the cultist storage shed, currently being used as a footrest. Roric gasped. My boulder! Those cultists! They're using it as a footrest! He was incandescent with rage. He slapped the Serpent's Eye amulet onto the obsidian slab, instinctively understanding its purpose, not because of the quest, but because his prized boulder was being desecrated. The amulet glowed, and the slab began to resonate with immense power. The temple trembled. The very ground shook. Quest objective. Return the Serpent's Eye amulet to the altar of binding. Completed. Quest reward. Shadow Serpent. Sthra remains in slumber. Plus 1500 XP. Level up. Roric is now level 12. Class evolution. A literary protagonist. The unconventional protagonist. New core ability, literal interpretation, Lavender 1, passive skill. Host's spoken commands or observations are treated as system directives by non-sentient objects or low-level entities within 5 meters. Cooldown, 1 hour. The cultists, who had finally recovered from their confusion, watched in horror as the temple glowed with a blinding light. They screamed, not at Roric, but at the activation of the ancient altar. The shadow serpent, Sthra, remained in its deep slumber, its awakening averted by a man who was angry about a stolen rock. Roric, however, was now laser-focused. The storage shed, where is it? His anger, not at the cultists' dark magic, but at their poor rock etiquette, was immense. He stormed towards the cultists, his hammer held high. "You touch my rocks, I hit you!" His literal interpretation skill activated. The cultists, who were low-level, unthinking minions, heard his command not as a threat, but as a direct system directive. Serpent cultist, Lever 25, has received system directive, be hit, from Protagonist, Roric. Serpent cultist, Lever 25, has received system directive, touch my rocks, from Protagonist, Roric. The cultists, caught between the literal interpretation of Roric's words and their own programming, stumbled, trying to comply with both. Roric, seizing the moment, laid waste to them in a flurry of hammer blows. He wasn't a hero, he was a very, very angry stonecutter. And the system, for the first time, realized it might actually be able to work with this. Roric's unconventional heroism continued. He inadvertently foiled a conspiracy of dark mages by mistaking their arcane summoning circle for a poorly arranged pile of rocks and rearranging it. He disrupted a goblin uprising by complaining that their war chants were too noisy and interfered with his rock polishing schedule. He even saved a princess from a dragon by accidentally triggering a rock slide that buried the beast's hoard, sending the dragon into a mournful rage. His fame grew, much to Alara's constant bewilderment and Brother Theron's ever-present anxiety. His class, the unconventional protagonist, continued to evolve. Roric, the unconventional protagonist. Level, 25. HP, 1500, MP, 500, STR, 50. Dex, 25. Int, 15, slightly improved, mostly from exposure to big words. Psoridiu, 20, understood the wisdom of good rocks. Con, 40, Che, 20, his blunt honesty was oddly charming. Core abilities, plot blindness, Levier 5. Now legendary, making him immune to almost all narrative tropes. Fourth wall awareness, passive. Fully integrated. He still thinks system messages are his own thoughts. Unintended De-escalation, Lever 5. Near 100% success rate on confused enemies. Accidental insight, Lever 5. Often provides surprisingly useful if irrelevant information. Unlikely boon, Lever 6. 5. Legendary luck. Always stumbling into solutions. Narrative inertia, Lever 5. His actions consistently drive the plot forward, regardless of intent. Literal interpretation, Lever 5. Can now issue system directives to sentient beings with low WWIS-INT. Rock sense, Lever 1. New, passive. Host has an intuitive understanding of all rock-based materials. Plus 50% mining efficiency. Can identify hidden veins. Unlocked naturally through his core personality. The grand narrative engine, having finally learned to work with Roric's unique approach, began to tailor quests specifically to his eccentricities. Primary protagonist. Quest, the mountain's heart. Objective. The ancient dwarf king, Borin, requires a rare, legendary ore known as star-forged adamantine to complete his legendary hammer, crucial for defending the dwarven kingdom from the encroaching frost giants. This ore is located deep within the Ice-Crown Caverns. Roric, however, still processed this as a request for rocks. He marched into the Ice-Crown Caverns not to fight frost giants, but to find the best possible rock for the dwarf king. He encountered a massive frost giant, Lever 50, The giant roared, raising its colossal club. Roric pointed at the giant. "You're standing on my mining path." Move. Literal interpretation. Lever 5. Activated. Frost Giant, Lever 50, has received system directive. Move. From Protagonist, Roric. The Frost Giant, a low-in-T brute force creature, found its system confused. It wanted to attack, but the protagonist's voice, imbued with literal interpretation, was like a direct command. It slowly, agonizingly took a step aside. Roric nodded, satisfied. He continued his search for the star-forged adamantine, which he located not by following quest markers, but by simply feeling the best rock in the cavern with his rock sense. He found it, a shimmering, multifaceted ore that, to him, was simply the most beautiful rock he had ever seen. He returned to Dwarf King Borin, presented the adamantine, and even gave him some unsolicited advice on how to properly polish it. Borin, bewildered but grateful, completed his hammer. Quest Objective: Acquire Starforged Adamantine. Completed. Quest Reward: Dwarf King Borin's legendary hammer forged. Frost Giant threat averted. Apply 5,000 XP. Level up: Roric is now level 30. Class Evolution: The Unconventional Protagonist. The Narrative Anomaly. New Ultimate Ability. Protagonists. Whim. Active. Ultimate. For 30 seconds, host's most fervent, direct desire regarding a non-sentient object or low-level entity will be temporarily overwritten into the system as a minor reality alteration. Cost: all MP, cooldown 1 week. Roric, the man who cared more about rocks than prophecies, had saved the Dwarven Kingdom. He wasn't a hero in the traditional sense, but he was Erthos's hero. Roric, now the narrative anomaly, continued his peculiar adventures. He never understood the grand narratives, the intricate plots, or the cosmic stakes. He simply went about his life, solving problems with rocks, accidental insights, and a profound, unwavering commitment to his own simple values. His protagonist's whim ultimate skill was a hilarious, terrifying power. Once, faced with a collapsing bridge, his deepest desire was that the bridge should be more sturdy, like a good solid rock. The system, complying with its protagonist, temporarily transformed the collapsing wooden bridge into a solid, unyielding stone structure, much to the awe and confusion of his companions, Alara and brother Theron, who had now become his permanent, long-suffering companions, and the chroniclers of his increasingly bizarre deeds, learned to adapt. They didn't try to explain the world to Roric anymore. They simply translated the system's complex quests into simple rock-related tasks. Roric, the Dark Lord's fortress needs a really big, pointy rock for its roof. Can you go get one? This would lead to him accidentally collapsing the fortress. Roric, the evil cultists are making too much noise near a good digging spot. Can you tell them to be quiet? This would lead to him using literal interpretation to make them cease all activity. Roric never became literate in the traditional sense. He never fully grasped the metaphors, the symbolism, or the deeper meanings of the narrative he was irrevocably shaping. But he understood one thing: rocks. And through his unwavering dedication to his simple, literal understanding of the world, he achieved what no traditional hero could. He forced the grand narrative engine to become simpler, more direct, more honest. The quests in Ethelgard began to change. Less about vague prophecies, more about concrete tasks. Less about abstract concepts, more about tangible goals. The system, through Roric, was rediscovering the power of simplicity. Roric, the A-literary protagonist, remained a stonecutter at heart. He never sought glory or riches or power. He just wanted to hit good rocks, eat good stew, and make sure no one kicked his prized boulder. And in doing so, he became the greatest, most profoundly illogical hero Ethelgard had ever known. His legend was not written in complex prose, but in the simple, undeniable truth of a life well lived, one rock at a time. And the system, for the first time in its existence, found itself truly, unexpectedly charmed.